in 2008, and my passion is to inspire people to live a green lifestyle. I myself try to live as green as possible, electricity bill less than $10 US. I just created my carbon footprint, zero carbon footprint off-grid home, green living, that's my business. In the morning, we look at our personal lives. In the afternoon, we look at what can we do in the office. What can we do as a member of an organization or as a manager or owner to take our organization, our business to the next level? Again, to shift from burden to planet to healing the planet through product innovation, energy efficiency, reduction of consumption, adding more to the bottom line and coming up with innovations that help the planet. That's what green living and working is all about, to look at where can I be the change and be the difference.
Hello, good evening. Here we are back again. And tonight, my guest is Victor de La Cuesta. You might remember him all the way from Subic. And we are talking about carbon capture. You might have heard Elon Musk has announced $100 million prize for the right carbon capture solution. What do you think about that, Victor? That's big news, right?
It is big news. But first, I want to thank everyone. Thank you very much, Matthias, for inviting me, and of course, hello to everyone. Good evening to all here in the Philippines, and hope you enjoyed this discussion. So yeah, I think this is a great opportunity, especially for local inventors here in the Philippines or even abroad. And I think it's what do you call that in Filipino napapanahon. It's very timely, given the fact that carbon emissions, CO2, is a huge issue problem in this planet. So there you go.
So have you got your technology ready already for the prize, or any of your buddies that have come up with something? Victor,
Like I,
are you
like I
are you
told you
ready
last
to
night.
get a piece? Yeah.
Well, like last night, I informed you that I had a meeting with them, and they're gonna meet again because they're in Pampanga and I'm in
Mm.
Subic. So I told them talk it over, discuss, and like get things organized on your side, and then once like you're ready, let's meet again. And because my idea is let's find a means to create just for context sake, my friend
Mm.
has an innovation as an inventor in Pampanga. He invented something that could help in mitigating CO2, and it's just that we want to encourage him, but it's supposed to be for a different purpose. And what I'm telling him is we need to modify this technology so that it can be used in households, offices, and right now, air quality and CO2 is very important. And I know a lot of people would definitely appreciate this kind of technology.
Yeah, so let's think that the Philippines can play a role as well. I mean, obviously, this will be a competition with global interest from all over the world. People are very excited about it. There
Hmm.
are technologies that are investing billions of dollars. I read or I saw the headline of an article at BBC. Apparently, this is a US installation. I think $15 billion. I'm not sure whether it's already been spent or they plan to spend that, but this is a big game. The oil and gas
Hmm.
companies are getting into the game. So, what did you pick up from the readings? But first of all, let's as well welcome any friends here that are joining. Dave, Anthony, James. Hey, Amaps, that's nice to see you. How are you, Dave? And maybe you can share with everybody where you are coming from and who else has joined us already. Maybe you can let us know where you're from. I'm sure we've got some friends here from the Philippines, from the Scouts. Hopefully, they usually join us, which is always great to see them. So, any Scouts here that are currently already with us tonight, and where you're from, in which part of the Philippines or which part of the world. I mean, this is the nice thing. This can bring us together from any part of the world. We are globally available. We have Neptune Escalera there. And yes, Negros Occidental, Visayas, excellent. From
I think given
Amax,
that they're
well,
I think
yeah,
that they're saying that the fact that they're saying good morning, greeting you good morning means that they are part of the scouts. Remember,
yes,
they always say good
exactly.
morning in the
That's right,
scouts.
that's right. Excellent.
I
Good
was a Boy
morning,
Scout
dear
once.
scouts. Yeah, yeah.
I was a
I,
scout once in my, well, for several years until high school.
mm,
When I went to the University of the Philippines, that's when I actually stopped being active in the scouting.
mm,
In scouting. But before I
yeah.
was in elementary and high school, I was an active scout.
Great, great, great. So one of your scout buddies is here, Victor. I never joined the scouts, but I've given over the years many talks for scouts
Mm-mm.
groups in Malaysia, in particular, where I lived more than 10 years. So that's great. We have Bro Kid here. Yeah, what exactly is carbon capture? You want to have a shot at it, Victor? What is carbon capture?
What exactly is carbon? I'll try. You know
Yeah,
me, like
you
I'm
try
not
and
very good at. Okay,
I'll chip in then. You try
okay.
first. I'll chip in the gaps.
So basically, carbon capture is different types of technology and solutions that are being developed right now, uh, focused in capturing carbon or CO2 in the air and storing them, putting them usually in underground storage systems that have been developed by big carbon capture companies, mostly funded by the oil and gas industry and other uh, impact investors. One of the biggest ones is actually in Canada, Carbon Engineering. So what they're doing is they're trying to capture as much CO2 in the air, and they're trying to store it where out of sight, out of mind. I guess what is gonna happen, and we tend to forget the about the carbon. So, what about you, Matthias? Can you add something to that?
Yeah, I think you've done your homework and you've given us the big picture. I would say that essentially carbon capture is all about taking carbon dioxide out of
Mm-hmm.
the uh, atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
particularly the area close to the Earth, because that is what is causing the climate change, global warming. Now, for the last 10,000 years, since human civilization has started to grow, prosper, settled, we learned agriculture, we came up with fire,
Mm-hmm.
but the problem started, but at the same time this led to the industrial revolution
Revolution.
when we
Yeah.
invented the fire for engines, when we developed
Coal
engines,
engines.
steam
Yeah.
engines,
Steam
and
engines.
suddenly scaling industrialization was possible, which was good in one way, bringing prosperity, but a problem in another way because we started to dig out the oil, uh, other fuels, the gas, the coal out of the crust of the earth, where this carbon has been captured either in the form of coal or in the form of the liquid oil. This is nature accumulating over millions of years carbon that through photosynthesis has been turned into trees and then later on maybe turned into other physical mass. So this has been accumulated in the crust of the earth, and within a short period of time of human civilization, we are digging it out, we are burning it, and we are using it for industrial processes. Even the limestone, calcium carbonate, we are
Mm-hmm.
burning it to manufacture the cement. So the concentration, the ambient concentration of carbon dioxide used to be in the region of 350 or below for the last 10,000 years, very stable. But in the last 200 years, it's gone up to more than 400 parts per million. For every part in a million, there are now 400 plus carbon dioxide molecules there. This is a problem. it is going up to such a level that it influences the temperature and the climate development. So
Mm-hmm.
carbon capture is all about taking out to reestablish that balance of 350, or at least to make sure that we are not shooting up to 450 or 500. If that happens, more of the Arctic ice melting
It's
will
gonna
be
melt.
accelerated. Other carbon dioxide that's currently captured in permafrost, like in Russia and in the soil as well, will get accelerated, and then we're going to have a real
And
problem with suddenly temperature going up
rising.
significantly,
Yeah.
and the whole cycles that we have now that enable agriculture, that enable this and that, all of that will be shaken up, and more deserts will grow in places where currently we have nice agriculture and grassland. So we are in danger of actually giving humanity a lot of problems. And because CO2 is still going up, the idea is, can we use carbon capture? So, Sustainable PH already mentioned here in the comments, hey, Neptune, what do you think about this? What did you actually learn in chemistry with the elements in relation to what we just discussed?
L-
Please share there. But the
let,
whole idea behind carbon capture is take it out so that we
mhm.
can avoid the danger of further climate change, further temperature rise.
Let's point out also, Matthias, that
Mm.
it's not all of the carbon is being taken out. We just want to take out the surplus carbon because you still have plants. Plants will still need carbon in order for them to
Mm.
process their food and energy, right? So you just need, like you said, hit a certain balance in
Mm.
order to optimize, the way the circle, the cycle of how air is being processed in the planet. Also, big news, by the way, Matthias. Just recently I saw an article. One of the biggest, a huge chunk of ice from the Antarctic recently just broke off. And this is already like a lot of the ice is already breaking off in glaciers in North America, in the North
Mm.
Pole, and now you also have Antarctica now
Mm.
breaking as well.
Mm.
So aside from the creation of deserts or dry land, you also have the threat of rising sea levels.
Oh
And for a
yeah.
country, for example, like the Philippines, which is pretty low compared to other countries, we are
Yeah.
at a point where the threat of us being swallowed by the Pacific Ocean is very big. So you're looking
Mm.
at New York, for example, Amsterdam, these cities,
Yeah.
Tokyo, Philippines, Manila. These
Yeah. Yeah.
cities
Yeah.
eventually, if we don't stop this, eventually rising sea levels are gonna swallow our country, gonna swallow us all. And we already see what is going on here because every year we have floods. It's flooding all the time, and water that we get, it stays in the
And
basin in Manila, and sometimes having a hard time getting out. So there you
and you're
go.
in Subic, right? You
And
are
I'm in
close to the
Subic.
sea level.
Yes,
How
exactly.
your house? How high above sea level is your house?
Oh, ours is let's say one house above the main road. We raised our house already because almost every year we would have flooding here up to,
Mm.
up to your chest. We would experience
Seriously?
that. Yeah, every I would say every 2 or 3 years we'd have something like that. The recent one was just like 2 years ago, 2018, I think, when
Mm.
we had the one of the worst floods in the city.
But that
So
is not
imagine that.
rising. That's not rising sea levels in Subic. That is
That
coming from accumulated rainfall that the system cannot
Mhm.
capture, right?
Yes, exactly. It's coming from the river system, which goes to the
Mm.
ocean, but with the ocean already, very being elevated, water
Mm.
from the river cannot go, so it just
Mm.
collects. That's what's happening. The good
Wow.
thing is, uh, when the tides turn, right? At least the sea levels go down. and then
Mm.
finally the river, finally, the water that is
Can flush
uh
out.
can be flushed out at
Yeah,
last.
yeah. Wow,
But
wow, wow.
imagine for the last two that we've had, we've been lucky that it stayed only for a couple of hours, 3 4 hours,
Mm.
and then it went down quickly as it came. But imagine if we are at if it happened during a high tide and it
Mm.
stays there for I don't know how long is the high tide, 8 hours or something in a day.
Yep,
So imagine that, right?
yep.
So there you go.
So I think one of the messages here for us as well is that as we have the scouts, the students partially that have joined us tonight, guys, there is a big opportunity here. There is big money potentially in green technology. I mean, if a guy like Elon Musk hands out a prize, a token of 100 million US dollars, he must have
Excuse me.
serious interests in this. And I think in his case, it's commercial interests as well, because he's
Of
been
course, yeah.
criticized for his planned trips up on the moon because you need fuel to get there. And if
Oh,
you're burning
Mars.
conventional, yeah, Mars, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, saying the moon. Yeah, I'm lost in space, man. Glad that you are not lost in space, Victor.
We're
So, yeah,
spacing out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So if he
But
wants to go to Mars, man, that's gonna be a gigantic carbon footprint, and
yep.
only unless he gets a technology that can benefit from reducing carbon emissions, then I think it's easier for him to justify such a trip. Otherwise, it will be like
Well,
a gigantic environmental footprint.
they're planning on colonizing Mars, and the first group of people colonizing it is, I think, we have only 5 years to for the first batch of people coming in. In any case, it's much. I would say it's much easier to have a machine that captures carbon in Mars compared to bringing in plants, bringing in water, and having those plants propagate in Mars and capture the what do you call this, the carbon in the natural in a natural process. So for them,
Is there any
and
carbon on Mars? I mean, that's
that
the first question.
well,
What
that's what it
concentration?
has, right? That's what they're saying. That's what the Mars has, I believe. So, anyways, that's I think that's one of the reasons why they are trying to develop these solutions as an immediate way of also capturing it and maybe using it, because there are already technologies that carbon upcycle. For example, upcycling of carbon and using them as a basis for other forms of chemicals. But then again, these is I must digress. These are more, a different discussion for a different day, I would say.
So Neptune came up with some good points here. Carbon is a very abundant element. Yeah, it's in many different chemical formulas. It's like it's in the tree. It's even on a sugar molecule, on methane, the gas. We've got carbon dioxide. We've got carbon monoxide. Okay, quiz question for you, Neptune. What's the big difference between carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide? Or for our other listeners, what's the big difference between carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide? Anyone out here that can answer that question? I mean, it's more like a general knowledge question, but it's as well a good essential question, important for
Basic chemistry,
general
right?
knowledge. Yeah, basic chemistry. Yeah, yeah. Carbon monoxide is highly toxic. You don't want to have much carbon monoxide in your air. If you have too
Mm-hmm.
much carbon monoxide, that can kill people. So, carbon monoxide poisoning, like when I was living in the UK, people have those ovens, and these
Mm-hmm.
ovens need to be regularly checked so that the exhaust can actually go up in the chimney. Because if the exhaust doesn't properly go up in the chimney, the carbon monoxide can potentially kill people. It's the same with the car exhausts that come out. There's a lot of carbon
Yep.
monoxide in there. I have an indoor air quality monitoring device here in the home, and fortunately, it shows zero carbon monoxide. If there's any carbon monoxide, I would be very, very worried. but my carbon dioxide level here at home, if it's very fresh air coming from the outside, it is at the level of 500 parts per million. But in an inside environment, if you haven't got the doors or the windows open, it can very quickly go up to 7, 8, 900 or 1,000 parts per million, or even 2,000. Once it goes above 1,000, it becomes unhealthy for us humans. We might feel sleepy, get headache. So that's an interesting aspect.
It's a silent killer.
Yeah, and
It's a
even
silent killer,
carbon
unseen killer.
monoxide. Carbon
Carbon
monoxide
monoxide.
is the unseen killer. Carbon dioxide won't kill you,
Oh
even
no,
at
no,
the
yeah.
level of 5, 6,000 parts per million. And we don't really want that. Neptune as well mentioned here, and there you can see his chemistry knowledge. One carbon, one oxygen is carbon monoxide, and CO2 is one carbon and two oxygen atoms. Absolutely correct. But the impact that makes
That yeah.
is so different in terms of the one is highly toxic, the other one is essential for plants with the photosynthesis. It's not healthy in high concentrations, but it won't kill us. So, Victor, do you have any more information about the competition from Elon Musk? I mean, did you read up on the conditions that he's looking for? What is he actually looking for in your
I
opinion?
actually haven't gotten the chance yet to get in
Mm,
depth with the Elon Musk offer. Although I do know that it seems that they already have like what do you call this? A product here, a distribution system for one of their products, Starlink, I think, here in the Philippines. In any case, like if ever that is something that we definitely need to look into, get in touch if ever with Elon Musk. If you're an inventor, that's something that you would definitely be interested in, and talk to the right people and try to get in touch with him. But there
yeah,
is a website, if I'm not
it's
mistaken,
public.
because I believe you shared that a while back.
Yeah, it's public information. He has
Mm,
basically published the basics. He's looking for a prototype that can deliver 1 ton of carbon dioxide that's working. It can be turned into fuel. It can be land based. Land based basically is the conventional that we all know, the natural way of absorbing carbon capture. The tree, the grass, all the biomass that grows turns carbon dioxide into the carbon in the biomass. So this is the land-based use. That's what I love most because it's natural, it's cheap, but
mm,
it's very slow. uh, if we want to scale it up, I think from memory, the world's forest roughly or the reforestation roughly saves 2,000 gigatons. I mean, gigatons is really what we are looking at. The generation, the manufacturing of cement and steel, I think cement is about 3 to 4 gigatons of carbon per year, which represents about 7 or 8% of CO2 emissions globally. So when we're talking about the Paris Agreement, that was the deal that the world's leaders struck in 2015 in Paris. This was the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The whole idea was we need to restrict and limit new carbon. We need to the curves are still going up and up and up. We need those curves to flatten and then
mm-hmm.
ultimately go down. And to implement the Paris Agreement, we need to hit gigatons of savings. That is one of the conditions, actually, that Elon Musk has specified in that 100 million carbon capture competition. It needs to be scalable to achieve gigatons of carbon dioxide. I made a video the other day where I said, hey guys, one of the fastest way we could do that could potentially be, instead of burning biomass for power, we have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of those power plants that are now using wood pellets. Even in my barangay in Germany, there is a biomass-based power plant, and it uses a lot of wood chips from the neighboring areas, leftovers. If we could turn all those biomass materials into furniture, into building materials, and when we turn them into building materials, and we can at the same time replace cement and steel, we would have a double whammy. The double whammy would be less CO2 emissions from cement and steel manufacturing. Okay, those guys that are in that business wouldn't like it, but that's what in the future the evolution of the modern economy might require, because it's too costly for humanity and for the planet to have those processes with gigantic CO2 emissions. So these industries actually need to go through an evolution of massive reduction of CO2 emissions. We call this decarbonization. Otherwise, their future might be at stake. But simply speaking, if we turn the biomass into furniture or building materials, and those building materials replace cement and steel, we have a double whammy, capturing the carbon in the biomass and avoiding the CO2 coming from wood and from cement and steel manufacture. We can achieve gigatons. What do you think about that idea, Victor?
Well, I think that's an excellent idea. Wood, for one, is already a very good absorber of carbon. So that is certainly something that we need to really not just look into even more, but really promote. And we are actually at the start of that already. We were doing something already related to that one. But here's a surprising information that I was reading earlier, and that is you since you mentioned cement, right? So apparently, many cement manufacturers already have a way of storing carbon from the kiln directly into
Mm.
storage. What happens to those carbon that they store? It usually is being transported underground. Same thing as like carbon capture. But here's the thing: there's always this question of, is this the most efficient way of working of handling CO2 or carbon, I mean carbon,
Mm-hmm.
right? And once you start collecting, you have to also use up more energy and more power, and thus creating more carbon that you need to store. So there is still that other issue there. Unlike, for example, like with trees, if you just plant more trees, for example, then that is the most natural way of
Yeah.
actually mitigating the surplus carbon in the air. It may take quite some time, and of course, like trees, they have a lifespan. Usually, on average, right now the count is at 40 years, right? But if we continue planting more trees, for example, and using wood instead of cement and steel, we're actually doing ourselves and the planet a favor by becoming efficient in converting or capturing carbon in the
But
atmosphere.
shouldn't you let the trees continue to grow rather than using them for building materials?
Well, that is, yeah, that
I
is
got
true.
you there,
Yeah,
huh?
you got me there. But here's the thing: like in most countries right now, for example, like Finland, United States, Canada, a lot of them they uh, get their trees or their wood from managed forests. That's what they call them. So these countries, they actually have reserve areas wherein they actually manage the forest there, and they only take what they can, they what they need for the whole year, and replant right away. They have a system already in place, and that's what we need. It's not a matter of just cutting the tree. What is happening in some parts of the world is they're not very efficient at it. So they cut the tree, and that's it. They don't do anything to replace that tree. In the right way of doing this is, if you're gonna cut the tree, then you got to manage it as well. That's why there are so many government agencies and organizations that are concerned about how to a forest
I mean,
in many parts of the world.
sustainable
Sustainable
forest
forest.
management. Yeah,
Yes.
and you can have
Yes.
certifications for that. There's FSC, Forestry
Yes.
Stewardship Council, or there's PEFC. I actually have 4 hectares of sustainably reforested forest that has 8 different tree species. So it's not a monoculture. It's not just one tree species. Monoculture is not so optimum for the
Mm-hmm.
biodiversity. It's more vulnerable to diseases, and usually it doesn't attract that many animals because you don't have the diversity there. And these trees that I have there, they will never be clear cut, so there'll be not forest chopped in one go. There'll be selective harvesting and replanting, so there'll always be a forest with the animals in there. That is called a
Mm-hmm.
sustainable forest management that delivers return on investment. It's like, in my case, an alternative pension system. And if we turn more of this into building materials, then we can as well have actually the possibility of getting more people to invest in reforestation, because that is the key. You know, if people can get a good return from it, then they'll plant more trees. They will go larger scale. And if that is not happening, then we will have less forests. So instead of making money from the high carbon cement or steel, we should give people the chance to make some money from these alternative investments, such as the wood or the steel, the wood and the proper forest management.
And not only that, like we're just talking about one side of the coin. For example, we're talking about right now with regards to construction, but we also have, for example, like concerns with regards to the production of
Mm.
food. And one of the problems in the production of food is same problem that we encountered in Brazil, where in order to create more cattle lands, what's happening is they are burning the Amazon natural rainforests. So instead of doing that, instead of agricultural intensification and just agricultural intensification, we also need to, forest management in conjunction with agricultural lands, which is really important because it keeps the balance of uh, the productivity of the land in that area. If you get rid of the trees and everything, then it's all gonna become farmlands and like food producing lands, but you're also getting rid of the potential to create more oxygen, to clean up the environment, clean up the air. Because you have to understand, cattle, for example, is producing a lot of methane gases and carbon dioxide from the cows, right? Uh,
So,
and
Victor,
and and
what's
yeah, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. We're kind of close to wrapping up.
Oh,
We are
okay.
close to doing our 40 minutes. So I wanted to ask you for your final recommendations for, Filipinos that might be interested in getting into the game. Is it worth getting into the game at this stage, or is this train already gone? The people who will win this 100 million are already. And
No,
should we
yeah.
focus on carbon capture, or what are your thoughts? And then I'll wrap up. Keep it short, keep it
It
sharp.
it doesn't matter like whether there is $100 million reward. What's important is we keep innovating. Right now, as
Mm,
far as we know, there's nobody yet who has won that reward, but it doesn't mean that just because somebody did, we stop innovation.
mm,
What Elon Musk wants is a more large scale, like you said, gigatons of CO2. But
mm,
there are opportunities as well to develop solutions for the home, for the office, converting CO2 into oxygen at home in the office, in your vehicle, for example, a solution against carbon monoxide. Imagine a world wherein we have carbon dioxide converters. Like, isn't that amazing? We can clean up the air, we can clean up the CO2 that we are releasing, and converting them to oxygen, which actually helps in air quality, in our own well-being as well, because we need oxygen. So
yeah.
think of it that way.
If you can come up with something for the home, I
Hmm.
actually know people that are looking for those kind of solutions in the
Yeah.
office. A cheap way to convert carbon dioxide, because a lot of offices are suffering from
Oh,
too
it's
high
stuff.
levels of carbon
Yeah,
dioxide. So that's
very
an
stuffy offices.
interesting angle as well. So yeah, guys, keep on going for innovations. Keep on looking for eco-friendly solutions. This is a mega trend. Loads of opportunities out there. This is an interesting subject. I hope you got inspired to look for more, to see this as an opportunity. There's a lot of green technology opportunities out there. Thanks for listening today. We have as well an announcement. If you're in Metro Manila, Ortigas, there is still a exhibition at the podium that is co-organized by Sustainable Philippines, an arts exhibition. Please drop by there. And great to have you on the show today, Vic,
Always a
and
pleasure,
all
buddy.
of those that have listened or are going to listen in the future. We appreciate your input. Drop us a line, get in touch, and be the change, make the difference, capture more carbon than you are emitting, be at least climate neutral or be a carbon sink. That's a great idea for all of us. Okay, guys, see you again in 2 weeks' time. Cheers.
Cheers.
I hope for a sustainable Philippines to get to the point where we ensure ecological integrity, clean and healthy environment, where we expand economic opportunities in agriculture, fishery and forestry, and when we ensure a people-centered, clean and efficient governance. I think this is how I envision sustainable Philippines.
Hello, I am Macario SD1, an undergraduate student of De La Salle University, Manila, and I envision a sustainable Philippines where every Filipino is responsible enough to take a stand and to take action on the current state and the future fate of our country, particularly the environment and its people. I envision a sustainable Philippines where every Filipino is walking on the same path and working on the same goal, to nourish the environment and make this world a better place, not just for our own generation, but more especially for the generations to come.
A nation that is willing to work with nature to create a brighter future.
A sustainable Philippines is when every Filipino works for the good of the country, economically, socially, and environmentally, making it a better place to live in forever.
A sustainable Philippines will mean self-sufficiency in food, clean energy, and clean potable water everywhere. Plastic production, usage, and disposal will be better handled. Pollution will be at levels that do not adversely affect the health of people, animals, and plants. Lastly, the government will truly be focused on the needs of the people in all respects so that there is less waste in fuel, time, and health.
I would like to see Sustainable PH catalyze a movement of responsible stewards who conserve and preserve the rich natural resources of the Philippines so that every Filipino can have access to basic human needs of food, clothing, and shelter, so that every Filipino can have an equal opportunity to thrive and flourish in his own country, because We are Sustainable PH.
My future vision for a sustainable Philippines is that we can create loads of new jobs and a great economy from healing the planet, and the opportunity for our children to breathe clean air, have clean and fresh water, and harmony with nature.
I hope for a sustainable Philippines where everyone can have access to basic services like quality education and healthcare, and also enjoy clean air and environment, live in sustainable cities, and have decent jobs, and be protected by justice.